Good afternoon, everybody. Bobby Cleveland, Executive Director, Oklahoma Corrections Professionals, is here, as along with Representative J.J. Humphrey, and our special guest. We have our attorney on, Eve Spaulding. Eve is taking care of our cases, and I thought it'd be a good idea to just ask her how she's doing with the cases and what does she feel like. Actually, I feel like that the DLC is just costing us a lot more money than we need to be paying. So, Eve, just give us some examples of how you've been doing in civil service and in a court, state court.
Okay. Well, I can tell you, and first off, thanks for having me here to talk about this. I think it's definitely something we need to shed some light on, and it's indicative of a definite problem within the corrections department. Um, they've got this civil services division set up, and the process is 30 days from start to finish. So when an employee is terminated or suspended and they want to file an appeal, they file an appeal. They have 30 days. So within that 30 days, we file the appeal. We set mediation. We go to mediation. We have a pre-hearing conference. And then we have the hearing. So there's not much time for any kind of legal skirmishes or arguments, if you will. Department of Corrections is doing things like, well, let me tell you this. So in the hearing, the client, the employee, is afforded 3 witnesses, and only 3 witnesses unless the judge overrules that and says there's extenuating circumstances to warrant another. Those 3 witnesses are the HR representative, the supervisor of the employee, and the employee themselves. Department of Corrections is doing things like denying us access to those 2 other witnesses that are the only allowed by right through the statutes and the rules. Instead, they're trying to make us file subpoenas, and then the rules don't actually allow for a fast or heightened service of subpoenas. So we're being restricted on our access to those employees. I've had to file motions, and we've had to have special hearings. Fortunately, the judges are allowing or they're seeing the light on that, and they're forcing Department of Corrections to just have their witnesses available. But there's no reason to play games like that, and that's what it seems like it is just games. Department of Corrections is doing things like, I have one case where in the Civil Services Division hearing, so that hearing within 30 days, they had some technical malfunction. And they messed with it for a little bit, and the judge was not sure if it was recording or not. The judge asked both counsel for Department of Corrections and the counsel for the client if they wanted to proceed, knowing that it may not be recorded. Both counsel said yes. Department of Corrections lost that at the hearing level, and they turned around and filed a suit in district court for a civil review. They hired outside counsel, so no longer are they having a legal representative that's working for Department of Corrections in the general counsel office. They hired McAfee and Taft, and there's 3 attorneys that they're paying outside counsel to represent the Department of Corrections at the district court level. And they filed a suit in district court saying that they didn't have a recording of the hearing, and therefore their rights were violated in some way. We just had a hearing on that, and the judge kicked it back to Civil Services Division for a rehearing. So it's just a lot of running around. It's a lot of legal maneuvering for nothing other than to waste time and effort on our part.
What about when you have an appeal or when you get into negotiations after it's all done and they ask questions on that? Does DLC bring any information to the proceedings, or they just say, let's just all he's trying to do is cost the OCP more money? That's what it's all about. It's about using taxpayer dollars to cost more money so he can get rid of OCP because he doesn't want any transparency. He's not transparent. He doesn't want us to ask any questions. That's the problem.
Well, let me ask you the question, Eve. If they don't present anything, so a lot of times they'll go in there and present absolutely nothing. I mean, they'll bring nothing, they'll present nothing. They turn around and appeal. What are they appealing? I mean, here's the deal. When you're appealing, you're not going in there and saying, we want a whole new case, because you can't go in there. You're appealing on something was done wrong, something wasn't right. We didn't be able to present this evidence. This was withheld, something like that. What are they appealing if they did absolutely nothing? Why would they try to appeal that case?
There's not a rhyme or reason to it, and it really doesn't make sense. They are so the burden of proof at the hearing level is the claimant, which is the employee. They have to prove by preponderance of the evidence that their rights were violated in some way, or they were terminated without cause. Often, it is the Department of Corrections is not following the progressive discipline steps, which we all know is there in black and white.
Yeah, they can't even say progressive discipline. They can't even say it. Yeah, I mean,
I had a hearing yesterday, and their HR person had no knowledge of my case. It's who they chose to send. He had no knowledge of any conversations had with the employee, and he could not verify any procedures that they follow as far as discussing progressive discipline policies. So it's clear that they're all doing their own thing. They're not following policy on that, and they're just. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought on that. I got a little frustrated on things.
No, it is frustrating, and what they're doing is like Bob said. All this is a big game to them. They're playing with employees' lives. They're playing with the fact that they can go in, and every employee right now, I've never seen employees, and I've worked for them for 20 years. I've been around them for 35 years. We've been doing this for quite some time. I've been a legislator, really working with Department of Corrections. I've never seen employees so on edge about being able to fire. This guy will walk in, fire anybody for whatever reason. He can do anything. He is the most, I will say, he is the biggest disaster, worst by far that I've ever seen. And yet he gets away with that. He can walk in and fire anybody for anything, and nobody can stand up to him. And so everybody right now is so afraid to take him on, and rightfully so. I'm not downing anybody on that. Rightly so. But then when they go in there, they're losing, but they're appealing, and then they're appealing, and they're appealing on the state's dime and on our dime.
Taxpayers' money.
Yeah,
they're paying $750 an hour for their attorneys they bring over there. Sometimes they bring 3, sometimes it's just 2.
Well, and I'll tell you, and I lost track, and I recaptured my thoughts. Their appeals are literally the employee, if they win, they have to prove by preponderance of the evidence. Their argument is the employee did not prove by preponderance of the evidence. And then they just regurgitate the same statutes or rules. Their filings are all very similar. They will spend pages talking about the old system and how it was then replaced by a new system, which has no bearing on the new system right now. And so it's a lot of filler and not any substance.
More time. They want to spend more time and money. They call it OCP because you could do this 15 minutes, but they don't want to do that. They want to spend more time. And you spend our money, and they're not spending their money. They're spending the taxpayers' money. And you know that, I don't know if you know this or not, but Harpe is the one who wrote this policy for civil service. That's his idea, and it's his job. That's what he did.
Well, it's another disaster. Again, we can put it right on him. He created a disaster. What's funny is he wrote this thinking that they could just do willy-nilly what they wanted. And what's funny is the courts, the judges, it's been our experience, the judges are pretty fair in this thing. They're trying to do a decent job. So kudos to the judges, because they thought they would control the whole process. And what they found is they're continuously losing. But now they just go in and say, we'll appeal and we'll appeal and appeal until we break you. And that's what they're doing. They're just appealing all of these cases. And the people who are involved in these, like your client that you were talking about, that's not an OCP, that's having to pay this out of their pocket. They got to pay your fee. They got to, I mean, you can't do it for free. And that's their whole deal. Just take it till we break her, and then they'll get out and we'll beat them by default. And so they have, I know of about 30 cases that OCP has. There's 6 more that I know they fired some executives that's the same thing. So there's 36 or so that we know, and then we are involved in about 2 or 3 cases that are not OCP, but we went ahead and helped them. The OCP couldn't pay for it, but we went ahead and got them with attorneys. Like when we get called, we refer them to you, and you will help them, but they had to pay out of pocket. That's why all you guys should join OCP. And again, what's funny, and Eve, I don't know if you know about this, but Bob knows about it. So there's a big push. We've been working on this for a year or two. This is not something that we just jumped up. This is about 3 years
in play, because it wasn't what it said. It wasn't what they told us it was.
Right. And so we went back and started trying to get us moved back into Merrit, to get a merit-based system. So we started that about 3 years, talking about it, wrote it out last year. Again, we're back here this year, and we had an opportunity in the House. This thing gets brought up, and DOC is in that. There's only going to be certain agencies in this Merrit Protection. There's reason for that, because cases are a little bit more complicated when you're having to arrest people and put people in jail and do all the things we have to do. But here's what's happened. Harpe runs over to the House and says DOC doesn't want to be in it. Well, that's a lie. That's Harpe don't want to be in it. DOC employees want in it. So I go back, Bob goes back. We talk to the Pro Tem there in the House, which is a guy named Anthony Moore. Man, Anthony stands up big. He stands up great for us. No way we're going to do this. Keeps DOC in the bill. Then the bill goes over to the Senate. The minute it gets over there to the Senate, Senator Frix, Aver Frix, has got this bill. Man, he caves. He folds like a house of cards. I mean, he just folds and says, well, we're going to take DOC, because DOC shows up and does the same thing over there. I thought we had this taken care of. DOC shows up over there. Oh, no, our employees don't want to be in this. You know, if there was ever what's that?
Did he lie?
Well, absolutely, Harpe lied. Harpe is talking for him. It's how can he talk for all the employees? Has he even went out and checked with the employees? I can tell you, if I was an employee of the DOC, I would be raising Cain with Aver Fritz's office. I'd be calling all the Senate. And let me ask you something, Eve. I don't know if you've ever checked this, so you may not know, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But I got a letter from DHS the other day that I have it in writing saying that you can't talk to any legislators. You can't talk to any legislators about this. You have to go through us, and we'll talk to the legislators for you. Now, DOC employees tell me they got a similar letter. I don't have that letter in hand, but I have a lot of DOC employees. Now, do you give up your rights when you become a DOC employee? Can you no longer talk to your legislator? Can you no longer advocate for anything that you want? I mean, is that legal? I wouldn't think that was legal. What do you think?
So I'm not familiar with that specifically. And I think that's a really gray area from a legal standpoint. I mean, there are laws in place about political campaigning, but there are also, there's case law that firmly establishes that individuals, just because they're an employee of the state, do not lose their individual rights. And so I would be really surprised if that was legitimate,
right?
Or legal.
And we would understand if they're saying you're going out and wearing T-shirts. You can't wear a T-shirt. You can't bring a sign on a vehicle to a state place that advocates one or the other, because whoever wins, they got to work with them. You know what I'm saying? I understand that. Think that's more than right. But when you say you can't go up there and tell your legislator that we want to be, when you walk in there and say they don't want to, and then they say you can't go down there and tell them what you really want, You must come to us and we'll tell them what you really want. There is something bad, corrupt in that system. And I want to tell everybody, I'm going to be writing out a letter and getting to a couple of people that you can send. But this is why you need to join OCP, so that we can be your voice, so that we can stand up for you. And if we had way more stronger, if we had 2,000 employees, guess what? The Highway Patrol is in this. And Bob, you know why the Highway Patrol's in it? And
Yeah.
the association, see, the Highway Patrol ain't pushing this. It's their association pushing it. We're pushing it, but guess what? The Department of Corrections is fighting us, but we don't have as a strong association because our members, because the employees won't join. If we had 2,000 and we had a good, strong association, guess what? We could afford to send people up there. The Highway Patrol has a highway patrolman that they pay to go up there. They have the association, but they have one of their members they pay to go up there all the time. And that would be awesome, because now they're hearing from an actual employee. You know what I mean? So I think it would be great if people would start to join, but you better get a hold to Fritz, and you better have your family. I would have family, friends. I would have everybody calling all the time and just, pouring the phones to every senator, especially Fritz. Every one of them, though, I would pour it on them and have everybody you can call saying, this ain't right. It's time you stand up for yourself.
Well, he first sent one of his individuals that worked for him up there and told the speaker that, oh no, they don't want to. They want to stay in civil service. They don't want Merrit Protection.
Yeah, that's a lie. She told a lie.
And I got a number of emails. One of them here in particular talks about very thing we're talking about. Says, I have spoken to a number of other officers, and I'm furious. No one asked them what they wanted to do, how they felt about it, and none of them. They all want to go on to Merrit Protection like it used to be, because you had a chance. And we've had letters from the judges in civil service that, in bold letters, exclamation mark, put this employee back to work. My dog's bothering me. Hey, come on, get it.
She's wanting some loving from me, and I'm not giving it
Well,
to her.
I'm getting tired.
The thing about it is that's the deal. Harpe is thumbing his nose at the court system. Harpe doesn't care about any of the employees. And again, hey, Eve, I mean, has there been anything that shocked you? I mean, looking at these, I've been shocked at some of the things that I see them fire people over. Me and Bob talk all the time. One week, the director, you'll remember this week, director, you remember when you shot your floor? It was a good shot, director. You hit the floor really good. But here's the thing. He shoots the floor in the same week, if I'm not mistaken, that you had a lady go in on a religious ceremony where the inmates were having a religious ceremony, and they had ordered outside pizza. So the pizza's brought in. This officer's in there having, be in the room with them. And they're like, hey, you want some pizza? It's pizza in a box. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'll have a piece of pizza. They tried to fire an employee. Now he can discharge his weapon. And I couldn't get him to say that he'd taken a drug test. I couldn't get him to produce any record that shows that he actually qualified, that he was qualified to carry that weapon, because I heard the floor is about all he could hit. It's what I really heard, But anyways, there may be a good reason why he didn't produce it, because he can't shoot worth of dirt. It's what could be. I don't know. That's the rumor, But here's the deal. Let us know, director. Go out there and shoot the paper man and send us a picture of it and let us see how you did. I shot really well, by the way.
It's not like that. I heard, now I didn't see it personally, but I heard that he carried his pistol into the prison.
Oh, I got told that. And Bob, that he had his car washed and had a shotgun, loaded shotgun, I was told.
Car wash by a inmate.
Inmates, yes. And that they're out there with the loaded shotgun. These are mistakes that no one makes. Anybody, now if you're going to go by the standard of his firing standard, they would have kicked his butt out 5 times, 10 times over with the little crap he's done, and yet he never gets.
Be there. He would not be there if it wasn't for the governor keeping him there.
Oh, there's no question.
Ignoring the people, ignoring how many's died. I can't tell you how many deaths we've had. There's many. We can't keep up with them.
This week, Bob, how many deaths have we had this week, Bob? Do you even know? I couldn't keep track.
Well, we had 2, maybe 4. I know of 2. I've heard of 2 more, but I don't know. I haven't checked it out to find out.
Well, you can't verify, Bob. You can't verify anything, and just like all of this, I mean, there's no records. He's just, Bob. They had to bring in. I was told. Now again, all rumor, because one thing that Harpe does, there's 2 things he does really, really well, Bob. 2 things. That's lie and hide the truth. Lie and cover up. He's like that cat in that litter box. He covers everything up, So the thing about it is he's a great liar. You're the #1 liar in the state, Harpe. I'll give you that. And you're good at covering up. But here's the thing. I was told he had to bring OIG out to Dick Connors because they had lost control of the prison and that people were injured.
Last week. Or this week or last week?
That was this week, I think. I think. And I won't swear it all runs together, Bob. It's so much.
Well, when I ask around about how we're doing, we have anybody, how's the inmates doing? I hear completely different story than what I've ever heard before. They're out of control. They do what they want to do. Never heard that before. We don't have enough officers to control it. If something happens, we have to depend on the other inmates. And I don't know, JJ, now, answer this question for me. He's looking at purchasing another prison that holds 2,400 people. Now, I'm going to tell you, where was he going to get these officers at when he can't even get enough officers now? Nobody wants to work for him.
That's what's so funny is when you look at when they took over Holdenville, and you'll remember the first day they took over Holdenville, they got an officer stabbed. That was the first day. That was why the ceremony was going on. That was during the ceremony where they're saying, "Oh, we're taking over the prison. We're going to name it New Prison," after the other guy that got stabbed, and then right during then they get stabbed. Now, if you looked at that over the same time period, if you said a year before when the private and a year when the DOC had it, guess what? The number of deaths just went, out of control. And we have no control over that prison. And again, let me ask Eve, you're good with definition. Now, so in Lawton, we had an issue about, I don't know, several months back, maybe even a year ago. They had 30 inmates injured. So that an officer left the gate open, I think on purpose. He left the gate open. Inmates get into another pod and they have a big fight. Okay. 30 inmates are injured. 2 are dead. By the way, one of them stabbed 100 times. So that's really what that really is a prison hit. Those 2 that was stabbed multiple times, anybody that knows anything, Harpe learned something here. That's a prison hit. Anybody would know that. But anybody else, what would you call when the prison's out of control? A whole bunch of inmates are out there fighting, 30 injured, 2 dead. What would you call that? Would you have any idea what you call that?
That'd be a riot.
Disaster is what I would call it.
Exactly. So Bob, it is a riot, but guess what they call
it? Disturbance.
A skirmish. Okay, disturbance.
A group. It's a group disturbance. I love that. So Bob, I guess the other day they didn't have a riot because the prison's out of control and they're having to call people. That's another disturbance. Hey, Harpe, can you send on down to my office? What level? Is that a group disturbance or is that a whole? is that classified a prison, a complete prison disturbance? If you have to call in outside people, is that on a larger level disturbance? What cool name are y'all gonna give? Shoot that on down. I'd like to hear the cool name y'all give that one. I call it a riot, Bob. When you lose control, and again, they've lost control of the entire Department of Corrections. What name do y'all put on that? Is that like an institutional riot, or is that an institutional group disturbance? What cool name will y'all put on that? Send it on. I love these names. I really do, Bob. It's educational. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you one more question here before we get away from it. When you have your 2 civil service hearings, do you do anything else before you go to the state court? Do you try to get together and try to iron it out?
So my experience has been they're not willing to work or meet in the middle on anything. We go to mediation. Matter of fact, I talked to you the other day about whether or not it's a waste of time and effort to even show up at mediation. They are not, either they're not authorized or they're not willing to do anything. The only offer I have ever received for an employee in mediation is they did one time offer to allow them to resign instead of being terminated. And that's it. It doesn't matter what reasons they've given. And I'll tell you time and time again, to circle back about what you were talking about, every employee I've talked to that I've been dealing with on their legal issues, and even the witnesses are all complaining that they are understaffed. But yet they're freely firing them for such minor infractions that it's mind-boggling. And then every once in a while I'll come across something that I'm thinking, okay, that would be a fireable offense, and they're not doing it. It's almost like DHS. They're doing the opposite of what they should. And if there is such a shortage of employees, then I would think they would be crossing every
Try to talk that employee to make them a better person.
Which is what the progressive discipline says. Their policies are very clear that the purpose of the Civil Services Division is to provide fair and equitable remedies in a timely and fast manner. I have cases that are in district courts that they're going on 2 years now. I have employees that have lost their home. They've been out of work. Their lives have been turned upside down, and they've been handled unfairly and wrongly. And yet they're still fighting years later because Department of Corrections is just churning out papers.
That's why.
Do they say when you go into?
They should have done my bill and renamed it Department of Corruption. That's what they should have done.
Yeah, that was a shame that bill failed, JJ. That was a good
with him. I did get a lot of mileage out of that, being able to show the corruption that's going on in the department. And again, what you're talking about, it is corrupt to do your employees this way. When you come out and you say, we're going to create this whole process that's going to speed it up, it's going to be great for the employees because we're going to do this in 30 days. And then you lose. And then what do? You turn it into a 2-year. Everything that you were saying, they're Democrats, Bob. Harpe is a full-blown Democrat because everything he says is right the opposite. They come out and say, we're going to make your life better. And the truth is, I told the guy the other day they had a bill to help inmates get their driver's license when they get out. And I said, oh, yeah, I'll support that because if, by the time they get raped, stabbed, traumatized, they ought to have their driver's license. They've earned their driver's license that they can make it through the Department of Corrections. I said, I laughed. I was like, have y'all ever thought of running a bill to stop them raping and stop them stabbing and stop them extorting? I mean, driver's licenses are cool, but I would say living and not being raped would be cooler. You know what I'm saying? And again, our employees are being, guess what? And he's saying we got 80% employees. And here's Eve, who's just started kind of really dealing with most, but everybody's saying the same thing. We're shorthanded. How can everybody be telling her the same thing, and yet Harpe's going out and claiming, oh, no, we got 80% retention. He's Democrat. That's what Democrats do. They tell one thing, do right the opposite.
Well, Matt had told me that when they went to the conference that DLC says, hey, we stand by, we stand by, we're not going to make a change. So why even have the conference? Why did they just say they're not going to change so we can bypass this? They don't want to do that because they want to spend our money to work on something that it's a waste of time. Would you say so?
I disagree, because when you go in there, you look at least like you are looking like you're trying to work this out. I think it makes you look better in court. I wouldn't waste a whole lot of time. I'd walk in there and go, y'all going to offer anything? If they're not, see you later. But I'd at least go and show that and correct me if I'm wrong, Eve, if we don't go, does that adversely affect us? I mean, used to it did.
So I discussed this with Bobby the other day, and I think it is a waste of time, but I think it's required. And I advise into attending mediation because it shows a willingness, just like you said, on our part and the employee's part, to participate in the process that is afforded them by the state of Oklahoma. Now, I can tell you unofficially, I've heard, let's say, some rumors, if you will, that other state agencies that afford the use of the Civil Services Division, those state agencies do not
appeal.
They don't handle things in the same way. They're not demanding subpoenas that you can't even serve within a 15 or 10 or 6 day process. That seems to be solely the Department of Corrections. So it seems like they are using it as just an arena. It seems like they're using it as another hammer to come down on employees, as opposed to allowing them the rights and the opportunities that are afforded them by the state through setting up this system.
Okay, so you just said, just so I'm clear, you just said DOC is the only one making us go through all of these hoops that are trying to make sure that their employees, so they're firing a lot of employees for absolutely nothing. They're not following their own policy, using progressive discipline. And then they're the only ones who go to this extreme to try to make sure that their people get fired and not try to work out rehiring this person or doing right by that person. Is that that's what I'm hearing?
I can tell you that that's somewhat unofficially what I'm hearing more and more from other people that see a little bit more.
Officially, I have no problem believing that. Okay. No problem at all. I believe that because, again, that shows you the character. Again, Mr. Harpe, that's your character that's coming out on this. This is who you are. And so, again, I will tell you this, Bob, with what's going on with that, having the contract on this prison, which is $314 million, all of a sudden the legislators are getting their eyes open. They're like a bunch of puppies. I've been telling them, and now their eyes are popping open and they're getting to see, because what they've seen is a man who's had a year, more than a year. He's had 3 years to get this right. But he made a contract, and him and the governor went out and talked trash on this company, this private company. And they got a year contract. So they knew a year ago they had to do something with this 2,300. And again, Hitton's over here. Nobody's even talking about it. It's a ghost in the room. But here's the deal. They've got 22 or 2,300 there. These are high risk offenders that we're talking about. And what are they going to do? They're going to dump them right out on the doorstep. I mean, and they've had a year, and now
they're forced into a situation that they shouldn't be forced into because of mismanagement.
Yeah, and the legislators are now being told, we're going to have to do this, and what's the option? Now legislators are going, well, what's your option? Well, we don't have an option because we ain't done nothing. You're going to have to do this. And now they're kind of getting into this, well, we'll just kick them out. So they're trying to intimidate. I've told the legislators, get this, Mr. Harpe, I know you're watching. I told the legislators that if you do what you do, they ought to fire your sorry ass immediately, because what you're doing is you're forcing them, you're extorting them into doing because they got no choice. And so again, I hope legislators listen to me, and if they do give the 314 and whatever we have to do with Hinton, that they go ahead and do that, because I think that's what we got to do. We got no choice because that's where they've left us. But at the end of the day, I hope they fire him all day long. And again, they're getting to see them come in and lie. At least in the House, we got to watch them come in and lie, and caught them. Deidre run over there and told them. And Deidre, I like Deidre, okay. Used to like her a little bit more, but now I'm kind of seeing her character. And so she went over there and straight up lied to them in behalf of the Department of Corrections. And so again, they saw that was a lie, and we did right in the House, stood up, kept DOC in there. They go over and lie to Fritz, and Fritz ain't got the backbone to stand up to him. And so he folds like a house of cards. And again, he's like, well, we'll get this started and y'all can come in. And that's possible, Bob. I'm glad that the Highway Patrol can get it and wouldn't want to cost them theirs. But at the end of the day, you and I both know right now is the time to go, not tomorrow, because getting it in and getting it hurt again, it's always very, very tough to get something done. But I'm not sure that the governor signs this anyways, to tell you the truth.
So can I jump in again and circle back to something you were talking about earlier? You
Sure.
were encouraging individuals to call their representatives, to call their senators. I'd like to just make a little statement on that. I think most people believe, and it's unfortunate, but I think most people believe one individual can't make a difference. And so therefore they do nothing. And I think that's true. I think research proves it out. I think we could talk to you and other representatives. And I've talked personally to representatives. I've read I've done some research and reports on it. And the statistics are, and the reality is, sometimes as few as 3, 4, 5, 10 phone calls. And I've asked representatives, you're a former legislator, you're in the House right now. If you get 10 phone calls from something, you stop and pay attention, do you not? Because that tells you there's more out there that aren't calling. One. See, and
especially if somebody from my district calls me on a bill that I don't really know anything about, and they tell me on that bill, I'll go look at that. And if it's a bill that's not really going to affect, I'm kind of going, I can go either way on this. One phone call, if I've got one from district, guess what? I'm going to vote that. Now, if I go over and look at it and it's like, I don't think that person who called me, I don't know. I will start calling the district to people who do that and start getting, but that one phone call makes me, and I'm not saying everybody's like that. This is me. It makes me go, hey, I better check this out. Let me call some people. So if you call me on education, an educational bill, I'll start calling educators. If you call me on a hospital bill, I'll start calling people that I know in the hospital business that I respect. But quite often, I'll make a vote with one phone call, But
JJ, on the prison situation, the new prison, I think the legislatures now are maybe seeing how they've been lied and misled for over a year. And now we're down to where they don't have a choice. And this is how they planned it to do it this way. I would be willing to bet you right now that he has not even gone as far as to get a evaluation on how much that prison is worth.
Bob, I wrote a deal to all legislators, and Eve, I 1,000% agree with what you're saying. And it could not encourage people enough, because what Bob is saying is right now legislators are getting their eyes open to what he's all about. And now if you call, they're already kind of leaning towards, hey, he's this. And now if they find out he's lied and all that, I think the door's open better. The pump's primed is what I'm trying to say. The pump's primed. But Bob, I wrote in there, have him produce 3 bids like he's supposed to. Have him tell you where, because Bob, we own property all over the state. The DOC owns property all over the state. They don't have to go buy new property. They already have property. And you can build on that property. So you don't got to go out and do that. So where What size of prison? How many? You know, he comes, well, it costs too much. Well, what are you looking at? What size of prison? How many inmates does it hold? What level? Is it a medium, maximum, minimum? What do you got? And show us where you actually went out and looked at that. And you should have done that a year ago. Could we go back into William S. Key for a little bit of money? Could you go in and get a place there at Pauls Valley for a little bit of money? Could you go over here to Tallahassee and get that hospital over for a little bit of money and for way less?
When they shut down out there in
William S. Key, Fort
Yeah.
Spike. Yeah, go get it. Why did we ever shut it down? Look where we're at today. Why did we ever shut that down? It made it cost $40 million. Well, hell, let's spend 314. I mean, duh. It's like unbelievable who's running the show up there. You know what I mean? It's like, man, whatever they're smoking, I want a hit of it, Bob. I want to see what happens when you take a puff off that pipe, because it must be good, because they're living in Alice in Wonderland. I want to go down the hole, Director. Share whatever you're smoking. I want to see what was that? The Queen of Hearts, was it Queen? Which queen was in the Alice in Wonderland? I'm gonna have to go back and read it. What was it?
Queen of Hearts?
Queen of Hearts. It was Queen of Hearts. Yeah, I did read the book one time. So yeah, Bob, it's unbelievable what we're talking about here. That it could be, but here's the thing. That's why we keep encouraging to get involved with OCP, because you have a voice and you can share your voice and you can get on here and you can talk without it having to go back into the department. Because if you talk over here and they find out, Bob, I've been told by I don't know how many employees that if they're caught talking to me, they would be fired.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's just wrong. You know what? Why is that? Am I such a bad person? I guess so. Harpe, he must really not. Director, do you really not like me that much? I wouldn't mind if somebody.
I'm surprised that he would dislike you, because you're a very likable person.
You know, I find that, Bob. It's just hard for me to believe he would be just so hateful and spiteful like that. But here's the deal. This gives you an opportunity. OCP gives you opportunity. It represents you in the legislators. We need to get stronger. We need to have you guys stand up to this.
I even hear that the officers don't even know what's going on at the other facilities.
Bob,
yesterday they sent out a list. All the information we got is open records, but they don't do that anymore.
Bob, that's what I say. He's so good at stopping information. That's what he does. He separates everybody. He isolates everybody, so nobody knows. Oh, hey, and even at their own prison, man, you start calling people and say, "Did this really happen?" Well, we don't know. And the information doesn't come out. We had a few weeks back, maybe a month or so back, officers that were held hostage. Bob, what it sounds. The report we got was 2 officers were held by inmates. Now, we call that being held hostage, Bob. That's what
I remember that.
I'd like to hear what y'all call it, Director. What cool name y'all got for that? So here's the deal. 2 officers held inmates.
Calling it.
Well, and these 2 are injured. There's 2 officers injured, held by inmates. They go down there and they tell them, nope, y'all back up or things are going to go bad. They hold off, finally get the officers back. I'm told they said don't even go down there and report. Don't even put that in the report. I can't find it. And again, I have to hook and crook and try to find stuff, but used to, I could hook and crook kind of pretty easy and get all the details and get some of their reports. Anymore, it's just like, you can't get anything, and they're not even sending those out like they used to. And the ones they are, when you know an incident happens and you're trying to look, it's not there. It's not there. So again, they're falsely reporting or just not reporting. It didn't happen. It's kind of like their PREA. When we caught the director in a lie, you'll be happy, Director. The AG doesn't want to prosecute you. Imagine that. Imagine you actually said you had him in your hip pocket. You may actually do it. I don't know. But anyways, we caught him in a lie, perjured. You remember when we were in that hearing on rape, on covering up rapes, where you are covering up rapes. We got it on video. But here's the thing. If you remember, he said, we're the top. He came in to testify. We're the top in front of the committee, House committee. We're the top in the nation. And what he called it, he said, the auditor said, we are the gold standard in Prison Rape Elimination Act. We're the gold standard. Now, the auditor come out and said, by their own policy, they cannot tell anybody where they rate, or they can't say these things. And he said that anybody said what the director said was not telling the truth, was lying. Now, that's what we like to call perjury. It's a crime. When you come in front of an official committee and you tell a big, fat, nasty lie like you did intentionally, it is a crime. It's perjury. Perjury. And so, again, we have a director who commits perjury, commits a crime, who also embezzles $90,000. You know you did. And so here's the thing. Is he getting fired? But he'll fire somebody for eating pizza. It's unbelievable. Hey, Eve.
Yes, sir.
If he gets fired, don't represent him. Don't represent him.
Well, remember, is he?
Well, you know, the other facilities weren't even aware of locking the people up in the shower stalls, two by two, two by three shower stall for several days. They wasn't even aware of that until we told it. We brought it up, and on that situation, JJ, you send him the information that this is going on, and he turns around and tells you, no, it's not.
Bob, but stop right there. Here's what's funny. I know for a fact that his own employees, not one, multiple employees, sent reports in say that happened. I know that for a fact. Then I sent in an email saying this is going on. And he says it's not going on. So when he sends that back, guess what I know he's doing? He's intentionally lying. Yes, because I know that his own employees have sent him, and I know what they said, and it can't be mistaken. And when others see what those employees said, they're going to go, how would you even come back? And then in turn, write a 100 I was going to look and see if I've got the guy's name that does that report. Man, how would you even lie like that? Shame on you. You're an officer and you lie like that, man. You ought to be taken out and horsewhipped for doing that. So here's the thing. He gets his officer, OIG officer, and I'm not talking about all OIG. I'm just talking about you who make these puke deals like this happen. You know who you are. So here's the deal. This is what they do. They cover up with 102. Could you not tell a 30-page lie? Would a 30-page lie not be good? But you're going to make a 102-page lie. And so again, and then Bob, here's what's funny. They come out and say, well, it kind of did happen. We were moving them from one cell to the other, and we had to hold them in these 2x2 cells. Nobody was there more than 3 days.
No, he said, this didn't happen, but we're not going to do it again.
Yeah, it ain't going to be done again. So again, Democrat, yeah, maybe it happened, but it's not quite the same story because our prison is so long and we get so tired walking from one cell to the other that we got to take a 3-day break and leave this officer here while we rest for 3 days to move him on down to the next cell. Can you imagine how stupid that sounds? But they tell it anyways. And so and that's the stuff I'm talking about, Bob. That's going to come out. I got a lawsuit that hopefully I've got
it. Is they say that's what I've heard is that they got the directions from headquarters, the top person at the headquarters, which I'm assuming that's hard to do it that way.
Well, Bob, again, here's what's funny. If you remember the guy that got locked in the cage outside, they called straight up to headquarters, got told, leave him in there, left him in there 4 days, no bathroom, no nothing, out in 100-something degree heat, left him out there, then hosed him down with pepper spray, shot him, I think, with 16 pepper balls, tased him. That's like what we like to call torture. I mean, this is training for torture. And again, there should be a video of this because it's a planned, what do they call that when you remove somebody? Anyways, it's extraction. Extraction is the word I was looking for. Okay. I'm out of coffee, so it's stopping my brain from function.
Yeah,
distraction. So it was a planned distraction. So if you go in there spontaneous, you don't have to do all the things. So if me and you are going after it spontaneous, it happens. We didn't have time to get prepared. Okay. But they knew they were going down there to take this guy out. They have to film it. They have to have a narrator. They have to have all this stuff being done. So can we get a copy of that? No, we haven't been able to get a copy. And so again, I suspect it's because I suspect because it would look really nasty. But the thing about it is they knew all the time and told them to leave this guy out there. And then when it comes out, when I bring it out, they start suspending wardens and stuff like that when it was them who told them to do it. The warden called them. It's what I understand. But again, it's all this hopefully will come out. And here's what I get upset about, Bob, is that our legislators I have proof that they're in agreement with them, that leadership has made agreements with them to cover all this up, to allow all of it to happen. And we know the governor knows. And I've written the governor, I've written all of them multiple times, the AG, all of them. And again, they're all complicit in covering this.
He writes these really good statements out, how he's changing things, how he's doing things. But it's words. This is all it is words. It's not what happens. It's just words.
It's pretty words. I give him credit. He does write pretty. And they come up with some classy. I like to hear their words. I mean, I like to go, group disturbance. That's good. That's really good. Walk away. Oh, that's hilarious. I mean, they come up with really, really great words. I often, that's why I badger him so much.
Well, and also one thing that amazes me, every time an officer gets stabbed, oh, it's just a small stab. There's no problem. It's just a small stab.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of, I mean, he's got the rule of our CalLot, if you didn't have to go to the ambulance and you weren't bleeding to death, get up and shake it off. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it is at the CalLot. I guess maybe he grew up around the CalLot. You get stabbed. Hey, how many times you get stabbed? You only got stabbed once. Shut your mouth and get back to work. Y'all leave. I guess if you get stabbed in the heart, you might cry a little bit. You know what I'm saying? May go on down to the doctor.
What was that? That one stabbing on the back of that? What's a bone or what? The nerve?
Femoral artery. Femoral.
Yeah.
Artery. That's
just missed it. Just missed it.
Bob, I've been now. I was on a first responder fire department, volunteer fire department, 20 years. The femoral artery is where that's some blood flow right there. So it's a little like that could be really serious. And then you call down there, can I get a name? And Bob, here's the deal: if a trooper got stabbed in the femoral artery, it would be on the Today Show. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But ours gets stabbed in the femoral artery, and you call down there as a legislator. Did this happen? Well, that's confidential. We can't talk about it. Well, could you give me a name possibly? No, we're not able to do it. And it took me 3 months to acquire a name of a guy that we have not confirmed yet was actually stabbed, which I believe was stabbed. I believe I could say the name, but it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, Bob. As I started with this, he is awesome at covering stuff up. He's like the cat in the litter box. That's who he reminds me of. And
I just wanted to have Eve come on to.
I'm glad.
Some things that's happened. How she just couldn't believe it. And if you're not involved in it and you're just talking about it, you won't believe the stuff they do. I mean, that's not true. That's just not true. They wouldn't do that. No human being would do that. But it is true.
Well, and when you got the governor and when you got the, just like the AG comes out and said he investigated, only if you go ask him, he never talked to a single soul. They didn't investigate. But him coming out and saying that does more damage. The AG has done more damage by saying it doesn't warrant or we can't find anything because he hadn't looked and he's trying to avoid it. He is one of the worst things that have ever happened. When y'all go mark.
Now, just a second. I think he did do an investigation on that. I think he went over there and asked one of the officers, "Did this happen?" He said, "No." Oh, okay.
He asked the guy that he accused of covering up. He went over and, "Did you cover that up?" And he went, No, I wouldn't do that. And
JJ and Bobby just making it up.
It's good enough. Hey, I want to see, Eve, is there anything that has just shocked you? I mean, we're getting ready to get off here. We just got a few more minutes. Is there anything that has just shocked you, or have you? I mean, what's the biggest thing that you've seen since coming aboard and handling the cases yet?
I mean, I'm not seeing just egregious, terrible things. What I'm seeing is repetitive behavior that is inconsistent with their policies. I'm seeing a complete inconsistency of following or even knowledge of the policy, which I understand. It's hundreds and thousands of pages long. There's no way any of them can be familiar with all of the rules and procedures that they put out. But it's most of what I'm seeing is petty. It's not. Can
I stop you?
It's a lack of due process, and so
can I ask you a question though?
Yes, sir.
They don't know the policy and they can't keep up with the policy, even though it's on computer and you go pull it up. So if I don't know, I go familiarize myself with it before I go do anything. But they are holding employees to the policy, to know that policy, and not only know their position, but these employees they're violating the policy by making the employees work positions, multiple positions, and then these employees are expected to know the policy of all the positions, and then they're being fired for breaking even the smallest. Would that be correct?
It is, and I'll tell you, I just had a case where the employee was terminated, and it was after they had an investigation. And so they had an agent come in and conduct an investigation. The agent's investigation revealed that two of the things that the employee was written up on. His investigation revealed every employee he talked to within the facility did it the same way, had never been instructed otherwise. And it was only after that they sent a sternly worded memo saying, "Don't forget, you can't do this." And so they're firing individuals for standard protocol that all other employees are doing, but they're singling one out and they're using that as an excuse to terminate.
So if on policy, if you have an act being done over and over and over and over again, and that's what everybody does that not become your policy? Even if you have a written policy, does the actual acts, if you have 20 doing that actual act every day without that, does that become your policy?
Not according to DOC.